Picture this. You're a manager and oversee a small team.
A steady stream of new work keeps flowing in.
It's more than your team can handle, but you're always up for a challenge, aren't you?
And you don't want to disappoint your customers or your boss.
So you always take on a little more than you can handle.
That's commendable, but there's a frequent problem.
Deadlines.
Whether you like it or not, you have to keep up with the schedule.
And not everyone is pulling their weight, but this project has to get done.
So you pick up the slack. After all, no one else is stepping up.
But when you keep jumping in as the project savior, it's easy to get burnt out.
Fortunately, there's a better way.
Treat every problem like a monkey.
Let's find out more about that here in Kenneth Blanchard's book, The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey.
Welcome back. You're listening to Motivation Minute, where we unravel the timeless truths in that stack of books you've been wanting to read so that you don't have to. And this week, the book is The 1 Minute Manager Meets the Monkey by Kenneth Blanchard. It is a funny title, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a very funny title. Didn't he write a previous book just called The 1 Minute Manager?
So I think he wrote The 1 Minute Manager, and then he's written all these multiple, like 1 Minute Manager, blah, 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 blah. Like he's got this theme. I actually read the monkey one first, and I've never read the original. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
but
me neither.
I think it starts from the problem of where you're trying to take care of everything for others. And you think that's great because you're getting the work done. But the problem is you're actually making them more dependent on you and less able to make their own decisions the more you do for them.
So it breaks it down into... like talks about monkeys and managers,
which are the alternative.
What is a monkey exactly in this book?
So the monkey is the alternative to taking care of everything for others. The monkey is, hey, let's put this in the middle and figure out whose problem is this. So you break every problem or project into a series of next moves, and those are the monkeys.
So kind of just all the little things that come up, or the things in a project that you have to deal with and manage, and stuff that's not that fun to work on, but just things that come up, but distractions kind of, or...
Yeah, so a monkey's a cool analogy because it really represents what a task is like. Because think about it, monkeys are small. Well, ideally a task is small because you can manage it. Monkeys are curious. They kind of like, you never know where they're going to go. They have a mind of their own. That's how tasks are. When you give them to people who don't have a next step, you know.
Tell me about it.
So it sounds like you've lived this. I think everyone has gone through some resemblance of this and just hasn't called it a monkey before.
I've seen this in my own business and in some other like businesses, some family businesses. And it's like there's all these little tasks that have to get done, obviously, and they hire people to do them. But then the manager just goes in and basically is involved in every little task and is kind of looking over people's shoulders and telling them what to do.
Have to.
Yeah, but every single thing he's involved in, and he's kind of micromanaging everything. And that's kind of how it generally works. And I've struggled with this too to some degree, getting people to do a task, but then I feel like I have to step in.
See, what's interesting is you're coming at this from the manager perspective because you're managing a team. I'm coming at this from the individual contributor perspective where I'm being managed. But we both see that there's monkeys, which is kind of cool.
So you said you've used some of this stuff in your career, in your job, even though you're not managing other people, but you still use this concept of monkeys?
I think about everything like a monkey. Now that I read this book, it totally changed how I think. So it's almost a bad thing in some regards. So the good thing is, because I think of a project or a task like a monkey, I am very careful about what I select as my tasks. And that gives me time to pursue the things that really matter, like getting good at what I do versus just doing a lot of things and not being good at any of them. And in the process, I get fewer like distractions because I'm focused on just what I want to focus on. The cons of thinking of everything like a monkey is you're selective because it makes it so that people that give me a task have this like mental threshold they have to get over in my mind of like, you have to make this task seem worth it enough to me that I'm going to take this monkey off your back.
Okay.
Because for me, I am very careful about which monkeys I take on because I want to do the right thing with my monkeys and not just take monkeys and then let them all cling to me and have to worry about every single one. Because this book talks about there's rules to how you handle monkeys effectively. Otherwise, they'll just be all crawling all over you and there's no order to it.
What are some of those rules? I'm curious.
It starts with, so I think he breaks it into 4 rules. If you're in a discussion with a boss or in a boss with an employee, the conversation should never end until all the monkeys have, there's 4 criteria: descriptions, owners, insurance policy, and a feeding and checkup time. Kind of funny how that's laid out. So let's break that down.
Yeah.
Descriptions. That's the next move. That's the biggest thing about monkeys that's tricky because you want to make sure that that there's a next step in place. Otherwise, you don't know what you're supposed to do next. I deal with this all the time. I don't know sometimes what I'm supposed to do. They give me a task at work and they're like, hey, it's this thing that you got to go fix. I don't even know what I'm going to fix sometimes. I have to go because it's been kicked around and people are like, yeah, I don't really know what this problem is. It's kind of elusive. We have to do more testing to figure it out. Let's do some investigation. That's kind of the key word. That having a clear next move makes it a very defined monkey.
Definitely. That's huge. That's been huge actually recently in my businesses is writing down kind of a description, like you're saying, of the next move in a project. And so that I know what to do next. Otherwise, it's like there's so many things to do.
Right.
They all get jumbled up in my mind, and I kind of forget which one to focus on first and what to do first. So that's the first step, huh?
So is this like a whiteboard thing or a Google Docs thing?
Yes.
Or?
It's been a whiteboard.
Okay.
So far, but I'm working on some other ways, and also like reminders and stuff.
And that's the thing about keeping things defined, like with the task, knowing what it is, because until you know what it is, there's nothing you can do about it. So you can have all these unknowns piling up on you until you have a next action, and then it's suddenly doable.
So the next one is owners, like assigning basically who is going to own or be in charge of the task. Which
is easy, but it's hard.
That has been actually a thing because just learning how to do this in a small business where it's like
you're the owner of every task in a small business.
I'm the owner of every task, but then I also want to, it's like with my business partner, I get to the point where I have to try to micromanage things, and it's my fault, not fully trusting sometimes, or, getting kind of like, and it's like who owns the task completely, or which parts am I in charge in, and which are you in charge in? So basically, how do you define that exactly? Who's an owner?
I don't know. It's sort of an easy decision in some sense because you're like, you own the monkey. But the harder thing is, are you the right person to own the monkey? It kind of ties in with the next point of insurance policy, because the right person has to have the right amount of risk they're dealing with. So like the book talks about, you have to decide if you're going to give advice up front or after the task is started based on the person's experience level. Like if you go to your business partner and you're like giving them advice every time you give them a task right up front, like you're like, hey, edit this video, and when you do this video, like make sure you do this and this way. Like your business partner might not be happy about that if you were to do that every single time, because they want a certain amount of, hey, I trust that you can edit a video.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's the thing about
doing it later.
Yeah. So doing it later, the problem is, what if they did it wrong? You lost all that time. So it's this whole like trust factor that makes that insurance / picking who does the task important.
The thing with, it's been so far with a problem with me is, and I don't really know a way to go around it, but is giving, I tell them do this task, and I tell them how to do it and everything, and then later I'll check in and then I tell them, I give them more advice later throughout the process, and I'm constantly giving more advice, and I can tell it kind of gets on their nerves, and I don't know if it's me being too worried about being too much of a perfectionist and wanting it just how I want it, or
Yeah.
or how do I get them to take to the point where I could trust them, or maybe it's I don't know.
I do the same thing. Like let's say I'm given a code base to maintain for a certain application, and someone else is given a task in that code base. I get kind of protective over my code base because I'm like, I like the way this works, or there's a reason behind this. And the other person comes in and starts questioning everything. And then they start asking me for advice. And the temptation is to like give them emails every hour with like, hey, try this, try this.
Yes. Yep. That's exactly what happens to me too.
Yeah. So it must be a natural human thing that if something's in your domain that you have an understanding of what should get done, that you feel like it's your responsibility to give the person advice so that they don't make the mistakes they don't need to make, or something like that.
But isn't that a problem though? Having to do that all the time?
I think it is, which is why it's important to have a good monkey feeding and checkup time.
Yeah. So you communicate. Okay, how much am I gonna give you advice in the beginning or later, so that generally
it's like a risk tolerance to yourself. Like I'm sure there's certain tasks that you and your business partner work on that you have this mutual agreement that they're easy enough that no advice is needed right away.
And it says you should come up with a specific time or routine to check up later, so both parties know and agree, so it's not
right. And that way, like the monkey doesn't get lost. So you always know where it is.
It's amazing because that would be. It's not like you can just always leave a task to someone else, because sometimes you have to give them, some advice. But like the problem is people do it in the wrong way, and myself included, times unhealthily, where it's random in the moment, sometimes frustration, or I've talked to a different business owner that has kind of complained to me about this, and it was but like, oh, nobody else can do it as good as me, and I'm trying to. I just wish I could find someone who could do it as good as I could. And then they're always just, kind of on their tail, fixing things along the way. And if they could just, instead of that, have clear communication, okay, I'm going to give you this task, and then we're going to check up, once a day, twice a day, whatever, and then to see how it goes. That's just so there's a clear definition,
And I think that helps that insurance thing, because there's less risk if you check up more frequently.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you want to check up more frequently, but then also it starts adding up more time. The more often you check up, and it takes away from your time. It said a quote was, "As a manager, to the extent that you can get people to care for their own monkeys, they are really, really managing the work for themselves." Or like you want to get to where they can start dealing with the little distractions and tasks, things that come up in the moment, to where they're trained to take care of those, so you don't have to come in every time to take over. And it's also going to take a lot of, it's going to take you letting go to some extent.
So that's the thing. If you micromanage, all the monkeys are on you. Something interesting the book brought up was about how it's so important that you keep the monkeys on their owner's back and on the correct owner's back, because the monkeys have a way of squirming to other people's backs very easily.
Okay.
And the problem is it's so easy to toss around a monkey, because a monkey's always willing to try something new and go somewhere else. And we do this at my office all the time. So do you remember in Leaders Eat Last how it talked about like there's a lot of task management systems that are really abstract and we really need to be down to earth, like solving problems?
Mm-hmm.
We use one of those task management systems where there's an assignee. So every one of those tasks is a monkey. But these monkeys get kicked around from person to person to person until someone actually sits down and says, all right, what in the world is going on? Let's actually solve this problem. And the assignment is key, because you can so easily assign yourself to someone else's monkey or unassign yourself from a monkey. And people would hardly notice.
Interesting. So this happens when there's lots of people, big team of people working together.
Because I'm on like a giant system that has hundreds of people logged into it that I could assign one of hundreds of people this problem,
Really?
that no one would care about, and then it would just disappear, and we would lose it, and it would just go into the abyss somewhere, and we'd find
this
it.
This is in your software
Yes.
job where you code software, right?
Yeah, so it's like a software bug. Like,
Okay.
change the permissions on this file. Well,
Okay.
it's like, you got to do that. Well, someone's like, I don't know how to do that. So they kick the can to someone else. And the other person's like, oh, this isn't for me either. So they kick it to someone else. Then it finally gets to me. That's when you have to be careful as a manager or as an employee that the right monkeys stay on the right people's backs.
So you're managing all these little tasks in
Yeah.
a sense, the monkeys, quote unquote. How would it look if you were managing? In a sense, you are managing people because you're giving them tasks.
Yeah,
right?
so you are, because everyone's allotted a certain number of tasks with certain levels of challenge, and you get a certain amount of tasks based on how well you perform. But the tempting thing is in a meeting when something comes up like, hey, we got this problem, to say, I'll do it. But the thing is, that's a great thing to do sometimes. It can be an awesome thing to say, yes, I'll do it, to step up to the plate. But if it's not in line with your other tasks or with your overall goal or your niche, it's not worth jumping in for.
Yeah, for me, those types of things come up not just in my work, but in like just my everyday life. Like tons of little things that people want me to do for them, little jobs here and there, and I've learned a lot to say no, but I mean, I still say yes too many times, but I used to just do anything. If people wanted me to do something, I would just say yes without thinking. And the problem is, you say yes to too many people, eventually you're going to burn out, and then you're not going to help anybody. And then you're going to piss people off even more because you're not able to help. You're not able to help anybody because you've taken on too many monkeys. These too many things that come up every day.
You're not doing well with the monkeys you have. You
Exactly.
just keep taking on more monkeys.
Exactly, and it's a huge thing for me. I think it comes down also to the inability to say no to people, to want to please everybody, at least for me, and then over-promising, because I want to do a good job for people, I want to help people, and then I have too many tasks to do. Then eventually I won't do them, I'll forget about them, and I won't follow up with people, and it always happens. I think I can do it, and then I can't.
Well, also, like, I know I love taking on new monkeys as well. Like, I love new monkeys, but I don't like finishing monkeys.
I love taking on them. Exactly, I love it, but I hate finishing it. And I've been talking about this in my business. Like, yeah, I love starting things, but it's how many things can I actually finish? Because I don't take the time to mentally think, how long is this actually going to take?
Right.
To actually do, and is it really worth it? And we talked a few episodes back. So many things that make us feel good, or with Dave Powers, so many things make us feel good, like we accomplished something. Like, yes, I have finished this task. It was fun, but was it actually moving you in your goal, towards your goals, or was it just something fun?
But maybe not.
Like,
right.
And that's something that I've had to think about. Just little things I do for people. Like, I like helping people, helping them fix their phone, or their, setting up things for them. And then I'm like, wow, I just wasted half a day. Today I did that actually. I helped my dad on this project to try to figure out how to edit videos, and that was great. But it was kind of for his business. And anyway, in the future, I'm thinking I'm gonna have to charge to do tech work. It was cool because I felt like I helped him out. The problem was I am taking up so much time in my own business, and I just spent half a day just not doing much anyway. Yeah, it said you have to change your mentality from that of a doer to a manager. And you have to replace the psychological rewards of doing with the rewards of managing.
Yes.
Deriving satisfaction from what other people do, and recognizing their work, and paying them and promoting them accordingly, not from doing it yourself.
And almost paraphrasing that, it's like taking the fun away from starting monkeys to managing monkeys. So that it's not like you're always just starting to get that endorphin kick every time you take on a new task. It's how effectively are you managing the monkeys you already have?
Yeah, exactly. Not taking on new ones, getting more efficient at the ones you already have. And that's all we talked about on one of the podcast episodes is how do we, get efficient at doing the most important things that are actually, like in a year from now, at the end of the year, looking back and saying, well, we actually accomplished something, or did we just do a bunch of random task that
Right.
didn't add up to anything.
So that is my number one takeaway about, managing monkeys, that don't take on the problem if the problem isn't yours. That monkey doesn't belong to you. I liked how the book put it that way. And that's how I remember it. It's, if the monkey doesn't belong to you, don't pick it up. It's not yours.
Interesting.
Let someone else pick up the monkey. There are tons of people that want to start monkeys because they love that feeling.
But it feels good to take on the monkeys. It feels good to, even if it's not yours, to say, hey, I'll do that.
But you can do that sometimes. But it's like being conscious of when you do it so that you pick up the right monkeys, because otherwise you could get burnt out and it's not fun. So,
wow.
And I've seen that. I've practiced it. I've started too many things and not been able to finish it. It's a lot better when I can start the right things and finish the right things.
Yeah.
Makes it a whole lot more productive. So anyway, this was a fantastic book. It's literally, I think about this every single day. And
really,
it's one of my favorite books I've ever read.
And it was the first one you read.
I think it was the first one I skim read, which is
skim
so fun.
read. Okay, nice.
Yeah, so
it's crazy that first book you skim read, you learned more from than the books you read fully, kind of, right?
That's true, which is the cool thing about the motivationminute.com technique. You can read a book in 3 hours or less. Just read the intro, the conclusion, and skim the rest.
Exactly.
And we hope you enjoyed the discussion too, and have been thinking about your monkeys and how you might start managing them a little differently. I certainly have been thinking about it again tonight. We hope you'll click subscribe, because you don't want to miss any of the action. We have an episode like this every single week that comes out.
Yeah, and we have we interview some really cool guests. We're starting to interview some awesome people that are passionate about personal development and reading and growing themselves. So make sure to subscribe and leave a review. That would help us out too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So thanks for listening. See you next week.